Chris is an MPD master's student at Syracuse. So he's working on design and things like that, but he decided to take a lot of my visual effects and animation courses. And for his thesis for that program, he's doing like a more advanced animated short. So it's going to take us through the process of doing that today, and then he can graduate soon. Yay. But he is remote from Wisconsin right now. And Chris.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Sheena. Yeah, so I was doing an animated short for my master's thesis. I originally did some animated work in Sheena's courses in VFX and in animation. And I decided to build off of those kind of with this project, taking what I learned and like focus on character design and some motion graphic stuff in this too. So I've been working on it since October of 2020. And I think I started animating in November, and it's difficult to say if I'm actually done yet, but I'm excited to show everyone what I've been working on. And I figured a good way to do this was to have Sheena share her screen while we play it. And if there's trouble with that, with lag or audio doesn't sync up, we could send out a Vimeo link if that works out for everyone. Okay, I see some thumbs. If that's cool. Okay, thumbs are cool. Cool.
You have any thing you want to say before we watch it about the level of finish?
Level of finish, I would say in the 90th percentile. I would say it's I think audio isn't 100% there yet. I'm still waiting for a friend to help me with mixing and some original music. And there are some more rougher animated parts and scenes, but for the most part, I think it's pretty darn cute. So not to toot my own horn. But yeah, I'm excited to show you guys.
Cool. I'm gonna screen share, but I'm gonna screen share it like a little smaller because it seems to play better that way.
And if we're having playback issues, should we just post in the chat? And then you can drop the link if that's the case. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that sounds good by me.
Player 1. Player 2. Player 3. Game set. Race to the finish. Ready. Set. Not yet. Go. Winner.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you. Thank you for all the little claps. It's really nice. So no trouble. I think I didn't see anything in the chat, so that worked out pretty good.
If you could still provide that link, because I'd like to watch it again at full quality on my own time, if that's possible. If not, don't worry about it.
Okay, sure. Cool. Thanks, Brad. Cool. So who wants to guess how long this took me? I'm gonna bring up a PowerPoint and maybe like go through some of the steps I did to make this all happen. So I'm gonna share the screen right now. Boop boop beep doop. Why isn't PowerPoint one of my things? Okay. Do. Sorry, one more second.
And you said you had somebody doing final sound and music, same person or two different people?
Same person doing, I'm sorry, two different people. My friend who is from the Glee Club and the University of Pittsburgh does original music, and a friend of mine from high school actually does sound mixing.
Sweet. Nice.
They went to McGill, so yeah, that's pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, excellent.
Now is it working? Let's see. There we go. Do we see it? Can I see some thumbs? Cool. All right, so this is part of the poster I designed for it as well. I'm also going to be doing a website and some other little diddlies for this thing. Thought I would share that with you guys. So how did I start with this idea? It starts with the mood board, right? Everything starts with an idea, right? Someone said that. And I was inspired by playing video games with my brother as a kid growing up. And, inspired by cartoons from like cartoons and Saturday morning Cartoon Network stuff. So I'm going to go over to my mood board in Illustrator real quick. Okay, so all this lovely goody goods. Okay, so originally I had a much different idea. I was going for this kind of blocky, kind of cyber text in the 90s Matrix style kind of thing going on with video games, but I decided to kind of make it more flat design and a little more pastel, a little bit more bright. But that's where this typeface was coming from. Working titles I had going on, and then really what's most important is how it looks, right? So it's got some backgrounds inspired from Steven Universe. I'm not good at backgrounds, obviously, but it's good to look up to something. Inspired by a video game episode of Fairly Odd Parents. This game, Fusion Frenzy, for the original Xbox, was a party game I played with my friends that was kind of futuristic when I was getting that. The coming soon on video and DVD was one of my inspirations for some of the backgrounds and the grids and stuff. I didn't notice those were film reels in the background blurred out, learned that. Bravest Warriors, Nintendo GameCube. I'm sure everyone's seen these grids inspired by like the 80s kind of just like almost like a disco type vibe, neon stuff. And then I knew from the get-go I wanted 3 characters. I needed a protagonist, tall person, I needed like an alien, and I needed a cutie, because that's the magic number. you need to make a fun team of all different colors and personalities and shapes and sizes and stuff. So player
Did you come
one,
to that, sorry, did you come to that after your log line?
did I come to that after the log line?
Yeah. So your decision for 3 characters, did you come to that after you'd already kind of established a core concept in log line, or is that something you just knew from the beginning?
That's something I knew from the beginning.
Okay,
I knew
cool.
I wanted 3 really strong characters. So they're inspired by, they're all kind of flat design because they're all vector art made in Illustrator. That's just the workflow I like to use. So if anyone's familiar with, Bravest Warriors or Jetsons or Fusion Frenzy, that's kind of where player one comes from. And then I was also thinking later on, I was like, who would play as these characters though? And that's a different story. So next, I knew I wanted an alien kind of inspired by these guys, off-putting like Squidward, but maybe silly like this Fairly Odd Parents character. And then player 3, it was kind of, the limit is limitless. That doesn't make sense, but the options are limitless. It's like you can go as mundane as like a cup of coffee, or like as wild as like a dragonfly alien monster creature. I mean, it's really like you can do anything. So I was like, I need a cute little robot bud or something, little sidekick dude that people will root for. And then I started to think, who's going to play these characters? So then I was inspired by like Kids Next Door. This picture of the Fairly Odd Parents background kind of inspired like that bluish color to match with his bedroom. I needed like an alt girl to kind of like play as the alien because I thought that was cool. It's kind of like chic and different. And then I wanted like a cutie to play a cutie, like a little kid playing as like the fun furry character, because that's what fun is. And bad guys inspired by Samurai Jack. Really, couldn't be more simple than a square and a black square and a red circle, but you can kind of just get across that is a robot that shoots lasers. Yeah, so I did think about making bad guys, but that's more work. So robot squares is what the answer was to that. And for the style of the characters playing the video game, so there's the in-game world and the outside of the game world. I was kind of inspired by like this like UPA kind of style, like Gerald McBoing Boing. If anyone's seen the Tootsie Pop commercial where it's all white and then surrounded by a thematic color. I was like, that's a very simple, strong aesthetic to really differentiate the 2 worlds. So I kind of went with that. So I had all these ideas, and then I had to come up with a story, and that is hard. So I think I will start showing you guys some design processes of how I came to the characters, and then I'll go to storyboards if there are no objections.
Well, just a broader question about the process of generating your thesis from how this works in MPD. Was this initiated in like a pre-production class, or is this something where you're working with an advisor to kind of come up with an idea on your own and do this as a thesis credit or kind of independent study type work?
Yeah, so when I came to the program, I asked about animation, and they said it's more of a design program, but we do offer animation courses, and we can also take TRF classes, which is the television, radio, film department at Syracuse. So I was lucky enough to take those classes with Shayna, and I really wanted to focus in motion graphics is my real deal here. So I thought, what better way to showcase motion design than in an animated short? I mean, there's no going around that. So rather than like coming up with a design campaign, I can come up with branding elements for the film and stuff like that, and a trailer and a poster and a website, and all those design elements can be incorporated with a larger project that focuses on motion design. So that was kind of my thought process around it. Cool. And it worked out. So that's cool. Okay, I'm going to show you guys some, maybe I can just go to these. Okay, so this is when I came up to my final design, but this is my final sketch. Came up with a color palette, and then I basically vectorized them, and then I would get rid of the stroke. And then I would add some shadow, give him some depth. Still like a little doofy look on his face, but it makes him look more in his own world rather than a flat piece of paper just standing on the background.
Chris, do you have some tips on how to go from sketch to vector art?
Sure. I think tracing is a great way to start. if you don't know how, to use the pen tool in Illustrator, because I know it can be tricky when you're first learning, definitely practice it. It's worth it. That's how you get the nice curves and swerves that you want in your vector art. I've been using Illustrator for maybe 5 or 6 years now, so I'm really familiar with the tools. Photoshop is more of a mystery to me. But if you're trying to turn your little sketch into a vector character, I mean, there's nothing wrong with simple. I think starting simple and ending simple is never stupid, for some alliteration's sake. I think going too over-designed doesn't mesh well with vector art itself. I think vectors are meant to be easy to understand and not so much detail. Like maybe Photoshop, you would look for a more painterly characters and backdrops and whatnot. So yeah.
And then for those who aren't familiar, can you talk about briefly raster versus vector and the difference between Photoshop and Illustrator?
Sure. So raster images are what are used in Photoshop, and those are made up of pixels, which are tiny little squares of color. And those little squares will make up a picture. Let's say if it's high definition, it'll be 1080 pixels by 1920 pixels. However, if you try to blow that image up on a billboard, it's gonna be blurry because it cannot refocus, or it cannot print a clear image that way. You can go smaller, but you can't really go bigger. You're stuck at that dimension. So vector images are mathematically calculated. So you can have them with clean edges, no matter how big they are. So if I were to grab this guy and make him huge, he still has all those clean lines. There's no blurriness going on because he's a vector. If this were a photo and I blew it up, it would become blurry. So yeah, was that a good job? Okay, cool. I'm seeing thumbs. It's cool. Player 2. This is how I final sketch to a stroked vector to getting rid of the strokes and adding some shadow and some personality by him, giving some smiles. In player 3 was crazy. Player 3, there's a lot of options to go, and I have more options in the PowerPoint as well. I went from ideas to like a bagel, to a milkshake, to a fork, to a potted plant, to a TV remote, to a robot dog. I don't know what this is, but he almost made it in the film. Stinky Cheese Man almost was there. And it wasn't until I started playing with vectors where I was like getting the shape that I wanted. I had this little robot bunny, and then I turned into an actual bunny with like a little spacesuit going on. And then he kind of turned into a sloth with antennas. And then when I came up with the antenna and the bunny ears, it makes this nice silhouette. And I jumped up and down because I loved it so much. So that is how I got there. So, and now we're going to see some more sketches before the final product in my PowerPoint. So hold on a sec. Okay, mood board, did it. Character design, silhouette test. So strong character has a strong silhouette. It's memorable. And if it's just a blobby looking thing, people aren't going to remember that. Nice proportions, dynamic poses. A good silhouette is memorable, and that's what makes a good character. I don't know who told that to me, but I know it's true. Okay, yeah, so some character designs here. I actually knew what I wanted with him. I knew I wanted swoopy hair. I wanted some big shoulders and big feet and hands and rubber hose limbs. I thought about maybe doing a big trench coat or maybe a little afro, maybe some facial hair. And I gave him a little visor as well to make that sci-fi element. So if you were to look at this character, you'd be like, okay, he's not in a castle somewhere. He's probably out in space with his like his cool, I don't know, space looking shoulder pads and visor and swoopy hair. And these are turnarounds. So if I want to have this character in a scene and he's facing backwards, or if he's to the side, or he's like 3/4 to the stage, I want to be able to have these references, or even if they're organized correctly in Illustrator, I can just drop them right into After Effects in the correct position and then rig them the way it is. And he's already facing the right way and I'm happy. So that is a benefit of doing turnarounds. Usually there's 8. You can also go up to 16 if you're getting really into it. Some other designs of player 2. So originally I was thinking just like a bunch of eyes and an eggshell. Didn't turn out happening. He also had a cape that I had to get rid of towards, semi-recently, because capes are difficult to animate sometimes, especially in a bunch of scenes. But I originally had this idea of like an egg-shaped gooey alien in a capsule, and then I decided to give him some little teeth, some little fangs, and a cape. And I was like, hey, those are some good characteristics. He'll be a little cute baby vampire alien, even though he's in a capsule. And I think it worked out. I think it's a strong silhouette and he's very cute, and he animates really well. And also tentacles. None of my characters have fingers, which is important to remember because they're difficult to animate. And this is a character sheet. So again, a turnaround at the top. This is back when he had a cape though. And if I want them to have different emotions, I would give them different character faces to reference. I don't think he ever had any of these emotions in the short, but if he did, I would know what to do with them. I really like sad. I thought about using that in the final shot of him on the podium, but I decided to go with more of a annoyed look instead. So fun. And player 3, again, wild choices. Definitely wanted pink because I already got my blue and my analogous color schemes. So I got the blue and the yellow, I got the green and the purple, and then I got pink and white and black, I guess, is what I worked with. So again, you see like a penguin with a jetpack. You see like a toucan with like an Edna Mode haircut with a backpack. That was a close character. A mouse, like a physical mouse for a computer, a worm. Yeah, and you saw that already. So, and then turnarounds for this. Yeah, fun character sheet. I kept the content look and the confused look the same on purpose, because he's always confused and he's always content. So there you go. Storyboard. Okay, so this is gonna get around 3 minutes. It is probably like 300 drawings in a row. Part of it it's animatics and part of it's just storyboard. So I'll just talk through with you guys. And having a good storyboard is a key to having a good production workflow, because I knew exactly what I wanted before I started animating it. And then some of these drawings, a lot of them went straight into the film because I liked the way they looked so much. I did most of these on my iPad. And then I was able to, on Adobe Fresco, which was an Adobe Draw not too long ago, but I was able to import them pretty easily. And you can notice on the bottom right corner, I have the number frame it is. So I know everything's in sequence. And I also have the red pen having directions as to how I want them to move and what I want them to do. File organization is crazy crucial during media projects. I'm sure I don't have to tell any of you that, but it's true. That's why people say it. This is back when I had a different character design for the human playing player 2. There was like a girl with a choker and a beret. I know, I was like, I'm not looking it up. Carrie was like, I know you're not gonna look it up. That's why I asked her to. And I was like, okay.
Do you want to talk about shot numbers and stuff?
Oh yeah, sure. So the bottom left is essentially the label of the file that I'm using. So LVLO is the level 1, so that's the first to name it. The second sequence is 006. It's the 6th scene of the project. And then the last sequence is basically the shot number. So a shot with a camera in one direction, and then if it changes, you increase that number. So 003, so you have a bird's eye view over here. And then again, the sequence on the right. So if you were to compare these shots to what's in the movie, it's almost identical. It's not so much like you might see thumbnails where it's stick figures on very small pieces of paper, like on Post-its and stuff. But these were they're more detailed.
Were you workshopping this off of just your advisor or your cohort? How'd you get the process of getting feedback? How did that work?
It's a great question, Brad. A lot of it didn't get feedback.
Still important.
Yeah, I didn't really run into big hiccups where I was like, I don't know what to do. I need your help. It's kind of more of an independent study project kind of thing. So again, everything's not finalized. I still have some time before defending. So this is still a rough, more or less, but a lot of the work's been done already, and I have more of the project than just the film going on. So, which I have feedback on. Cool. File organization. I did talk about that. So I'm gonna keep going. Backgrounds. Do you need them? Probably. This is the first background I had for the initial scene where they fall down. It's honestly not much different than what's actually in the movie. It's just some glowy effects and some gradients and a grid, and I think that's it. I think that's really, and maybe some particles too, just to add some ambience and stuff. But it's really easy to go simple with backgrounds. So I'm not a landscape artist. I'm not a background painter. I'm not a Bob Ross. I am just a man. Cool. Let's see here. What else? Does anyone have any questions thus far?
So you had mentioned this already about using your vector assets that you had mocked up for your character designs and your turnarounds and dropping those directly into After Effects. So there is a bit of there's not such a clear delineation between pre-production and production in this, right? Because you have some overlap. And so you mentioned changing some of the designs. How did that process work when you modified some of the designs? Was that like a big deal to go back and change those things, or are they minor changes? How did that work?
I heard you, Brad. Just give me one moment.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Okay. So yeah, the pre-production and production was not so separated. They're definitely happening at the same time. Sometimes I would import stuff into After Effects and not change them into shape layers. I would actually keep them as the Illustrator files. So if I did want to change something, it would happen automatically because Adobe likes to talk to each other. So that's a very helpful tool I used. As for like script writing, this really was a storyboard led project. I didn't write a script. I was thinking what could happen next, and I just drew what I think what should happen or what could happen next. Maybe maybe I should write a script of what actually happens, because there actually isn't one right now. But don't know if that's completely necessary. I think a lot of projects, animation projects, are storyboard led instead of script led.
Yeah, you see that on writing credits on some animated shows. You'll see storyboard by instead of a story. So yeah, that's definitely. I think for animated shorts, storyboard is far more important than the screenplay.
Yeah, cool. Did anybody have a question of maybe like how I did something? How long did it take? Well, I started in October, and I don't know what day it is. It's March 1st. So a long time. I think I didn't even finish the storyboard until like I had some parts finished and other parts not for some scenes. And I was like, I can't get stuck on the storyboard. Let me just make these assets right now because I got stuck storyboarding. And I was like, I don't know what should happen. I have no idea how we're gonna beat player 2. So yeah, that's it takes it takes too long, honestly. But if you want to make something, you got to work for it and you got to take the time to do it. And I'm proud of it. So that's cool. Did anybody see anything in there maybe that they're like, oh, I wonder how he did that? Like maybe a visual effects or a how a character moved or
They're asking about rigging.
rigging. Cool. Rigging is basically puppeteering. So if anyone's used Marionette, that's weird, but it's very similar to that. I use a program called Duik Basil. It's a plugin for After Effects. It's from a Dutch company, and basically I would use the pen tool to draw player 1's arm. I would select those points and add bones, which would basically create the line into a limb like an arm. And I was able to put some restraints on the elbow to make sure it was always at a curve. So it was essentially always, it was never like a harsh elbow going on. It was always like a noodle arm. And it's very simple to use. I'm sure I could post some YouTube tutorials. I remember I've watched the same one maybe 5 times. It's like maybe 2 minutes long, but I was like, oh wait, which order does this go? Yeah, definitely look into Duik Basil. There's also a plugin called Rubber Hose. I'm less familiar with, but also gets the same job done. I think it's a little bit more restrictive in its uses. I don't think there's as much versatility with that. You can do a lot of rigging with animals and stuff with Duik Basil. I haven't done that just yet. So yeah, that's how I rigged my characters. Let's see, I'm reading the chat.
Jacob's asking about the glitch.
The glitch. That was a displacement map. That's okay if you don't know what that is. It's I essentially used fractal noise, which is like this cool effect that just has like some wonky stuff going on. And I made those squares by just clicking a box. I wanted those squares, and I used a displacement map, which carries an effect over to something else. And then I also used an effect, not colorama. It was like I think it's 4-key color. So in case it takes the red, the green, and the red, green, and blue, and separates them. And I can move them any which way I want. Yes, I can send the link to the plugin. Oh, there's also another plugin I use for this project. It's called Bendy Nulls. Does anyone know what that is? I see one person nodding. Bendy Nulls is essentially, I could just make a character. I use it for player 1's torso when he's falling, and you can bend it without disrupting any of the straight lines. They're not crumpling in on themselves like if you were to do it within After Effects itself. That happens a lot. Oh, thank you, Brad, for sending the link. I also want to send the link for Bendy Nulls. They are, I can't wait to play with them more. They are really cool. And they're also free, which is wonderful. You could send them a $1 or $2 because developers deserve, some cred, but absolutely free. Let's see. I can talk about sound for a quick moment. the narrator for this film, he is very handsome. I'm just kidding. That was me. I did all the narrating myself. I used Adobe Audition, and I put on some compressors to make it sound like I was on a broadcast, and a delay to make me feel like I'm in more space. I was kind of aiming for a Super Smash Brothers narrator, like Super Smash Brothers Melee. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but that's kind of what I was shooting for. Let me know how my acting was, but yeah, sound is very important. It will change your movie, especially animation, where if you're watching it, you're like, this could be funny, but it's not because I can't hear anything. So actually it makes it more difficult working on it because you're watching it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, but you just don't think it's funny. You're like, well, if I had sound, maybe it'd be funny. Thank you, Calvin. Yeah, I was lucky enough, I didn't have to do any mouth thebets, which is shaping a mouth in the form of a letter or a syllable, because none of my characters talked. It was only this omniscient narrator. So I definitely had my wits about me when choosing my my workload. I mean, it's still a lot of work too, but I was able to lessen it so with that. Yes, no fingers and no lip sync. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so sound is very important. I used a lot of the oh, where's the word? Just I want to say like effects, but it's not the effects. They are called, I can't remember, but I use sound effects from a place called Epidemic Sound. It's like a subscription service. I think it's like 10 or 15 bucks a month. I think if you end up doing something big with their noises, you can pay licensing fees. But if you're just posting it to YouTube and sending it around, and for educational purposes, it's totally cool. So Foley, yeah. Oh, actually, there is a lot of Foley in this that you probably didn't notice. The chair rolling to the desk, that is this chair I'm sitting in, and this is my desk. So I used this mic right here. Yeah, I recorded a bunch of sounds, but a lot of them are also like, I'm not going to go out and buy a laser, so I'm just going to get that noise somewhere else. Yeah. Any other questions? Say, talk about sound, storyboard.
Can we see any of the rigged characters in After Effects?
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me 15 minutes. I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point too. Jacob brought up your pipeline for, because you mentioned some of the characters are assets you left as AI files, whereas some of them you converted to shapes. So maybe you could talk a little bit about your pipeline there.
Sure. So as my After Effects is being pulled up, I would actually laboringly import every Illustrator file into After Effects. There are some plugins that like Mocha or Overlord actually that like will automatically bring in Photoshop or Illustrator files into After Effects and label it all and make them all nice and pretty for you. I did not do that. I brought them in all myself. I laboringly separated each layer that is going to move in my Illustrator file and labeled it correctly. A lot of like left eyes and like right hands connected to right arm, connected to right shoulder, connected to torso and stuff like that. When I was working with like, I like drawing in Illustrator. So like a lot of the gradients you're seeing in the film are actually still Illustrator files. If you were to make them into shape layers, they would turn all gray and boxy, and then you'd basically just have to redo it in After Effects. And I feel like drawing in After Effects is difficult. I'm saying that because I'm obviously biased. I've been using Illustrator for like 5 years. So I'm more aware of like the tools and stuff. So a lot of the gradients you're seeing like in the sky, excuse me, and then some other stuff like the planet is always an AI file. And if I ever wanted to change it, I can just go to the Illustrator file and change it in the After Effects file. So yeah, it's cool. I don't want to bring up too big of a file, but I might have to if I want to bring up the rig. Here we go. Oh, I can talk about run cycles. I do have a few run cycles in this, and it's I actually used an application on my iPad called Rough Animator. It is $5, and I was able to just airdrop those to my laptop as PNG sequences, and then I was able to basically do an Illustrator file for each frame. So I think it was 16 frames for the running cycle, and then I just loop that in After Effects, and that's what it is. It's changing the opacity for each frame and then repeating it. So that is I technically hand drawn because I did test it on the iPad.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, because I mean, Duke rigs are great for certain things, but yeah, on cycles they can get a little bit wonky. So yeah, you get sprite-based animation. That's awesome.
Sure. Okay, let's take a look at Duick real quick. So this was he has his cape in the scene. Okay, cool. So this was the beginning scene where they're dropping in and taking names, and what took me maybe a few days was this character physically getting up. I have a reference video that I took of myself getting up from the floor. I'm not going to show that to you, but it's difficult to go frame by frame because it is a really big file. It's probably the biggest file, and it's like a minute long. But let's see here. If you look over on my left, you can see everything is labeled because they got to be if you want to know what you're doing, and a lot of pre-comps. So let's see. Player one test. Okay, don't ask me why it's sideways. Okay, guys, just deal with it. So let's see, left arm rubber hose. So this is his left arm. I'm gonna go into there, and this is kind of what it looks like. You control each of the, let's see, the shoulder, the elbow, and the hand joint essentially, and you can just move them around with your mouse like this and keyframe it. And I also put a restraint on the middle one, so it's always at a curve. Fun stuff. And you can rotate stuff like this. Essentially, and you're keyframing it like that. And once you get a nice sequence going, you can loop it, and essentially how it works instead of physically drawing an arm each frame or every 2 frames or every 3 frames. Yeah. I see. I think I can actually show you. Let's see, player one test, player one free comp, and then if I go to, let's see if I can find arm flop in here. Yes, I can. So when the player one first hits the ground, I'm using bendy nulls, which is right here, to bend his torso back. And then before using Duick, I did a rough animator pencil test basically to do his arms flopping on the ground, because I want him to be like all rubbery and, you know, loose, and wanted his arms to be floppy. So these are different shape layers. And then they disappear after these, what, maybe 6 frames. It is on 2s. And this took me like maybe a whole day. And I used this for the legs and the arms. And it's maybe in half a second of the movie, just to have him have floppy arms. So that was some sprite animation there as well. A lot of pre-comps. And maybe I can show you bendy nulls real quick. Let's go to torso. Torso end, torso start, torso outlined. So CC bend it, and I can bend his torso like so. And it still keeps that like smoother, it's not collapsing in on itself kind of thing. So bendy nulls is a great plugin. Let's see, I'm not keeping an eye on the chat, so let me know if anyone's asking me anything. let's see here. I worked with a few 3D layers to make when player 3 falls in and becomes flat against the ground. He is a 2D vector image, so I went into the 3D layer and just flopped him like a pancake downwards, and he kind of just expanded like a pancake to get that kind of effect. And then I did some motion blur to make him pop up kind of seamlessly. Yeah. Also, player 1 jumping into player 2's arms. That was a a long bit of work. Also using Duik Basil, rigging the arms and legs to do a pose like that, maybe. I can basically, you can just put a magnifying glass to my project Shayna and tell me what needs to be fixed here. But yeah, and then I'm drawing, redrawing his arms right here, his tentacles to catch my guy here, and then they follow through by falling down to the ground a little bit, and they'll pop right back up. Animation principles: follow through, anticipation, and you know, making things look smooth, cool, and bouncy. It works.
So I'm sure that a number of people also, especially if they have some experience in After Effects, are feeling the pain of heavy files. How did you deal with playback, preview, refining your animation when you're fighting against After Effects is such a resource hog?
That's a great question. I think that also is a big factor as why it takes so long, because you're waiting for your image to load, rather, the preview, and that could take a few minutes for every little change, and you decide you don't like that change, you gotta redo it. I did clear my disk cache before doing this project file, and that was I don't know if this is embarrassing or not, but it was 400 gigs. So maybe I haven't done that in a while. So that I did that before starting this Adobe After Effects file. So hopefully clearing my cache would make things better. I can't say, I don't have any proof whether it did or not, but yeah, other than like maybe hooking up a hard drive and like having your like RAM go through that or something, I don't have the knowledge or wisdom or tricks to help you fight After Effects render faster, especially with a large project file. It's you kind of use version up, which is you save a different version every chance you get to make sure you don't lose your stuff.
Good point.
You back it up. I have 2 or 3 Google Drives that are basically filled to the max because of this project. And you know, chuck deuces and hope for the best. You gotta do your gotta just plus up and hope it doesn't happen to you.
Yeah, Calvin mentioned fast draft. Yeah, and let's all get an eGPU. Yeah, Shane, I'd love to be able to purchase a video card one of these days. So it'll happen soon, right? But fast draft previews help. Also, in the preview panel, you can elect to play by like skip frames. So you could skip every other frame, or you can skip every third frame. And sometimes, especially if you're really struggling with your playback, setting it that way like will save your sanity. Also, just even though it's supposed to auto default down in quality based on your resources, forcing it to go down to like third or quarter quality sometimes is a good way to get around that too. But it is a struggle no matter what. So if you're struggling in After Effects with the responsiveness of the program, it's not you, it's not your machine necessarily. It's just a really heavy program.
It's true. Yeah, those are some great tips, Brad. Thank you.
I also got a hard drive that helped a lot. I don't know. Can you hear me right now? I'm outside. Sorry, but I got like a RAID hard drive by Glyph, and it's like super fast, and it stops like that bottleneck between like the computer and the hard drive that can, no matter how fast your computer is, it'll slow down if your hard drive is slow. So that's just something I did.
Yeah, if you're working off external, you said it's a RAID. Is it a RAID SATA drive, Jacob?
It's a RAID. I think it's like 0 configured or something. It's like It's 4 terabytes. It's like I don't know, if you look up like glyph SSD RAID external hard drive, it'll definitely come up. But it's like that's like saved me like so much because I do like shit that is really heavy stuff like between the computer and like I don't have a problem that much. So
Nice.
I'd recommend that heavily.
Excellent. Good to know. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Jacob.
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of character animation. This also some cool text animations here and there. This race to the finish design took me an entire day, and that was just to design it, not to animate it. So it really goes to show you what goes into designing something, and then a whole other line of work to making it move nicely. So yeah.
I think it's a good point that the design is the important thing. So what we're resolving on and holding on, the composition of that, the design of the text, the typography, that is the important part. And then the transitional animations, like the flash that gets us there. But I think sometimes that gets neglected, is like, okay, I got like a rough composition. Let's just get into the animation. It's like, make sure you're happy with your composition.
Yes, compositions are key for sure. It doesn't matter if it moves nicely, if it looks like poo. Yeah. Cool. I think I'm gonna stop my share so my computer can breathe a little bit.
And are you like picture locked? Like, so as far as like notes and stuff, because I was considering kind of going back through this and maybe just following up with some notes in email for like last minute little, things you could catch.
Sure.
Are you picture locked? How's that working? I know you're working with somebody for sound, but how's that work?
I don't think I picture locked yet.
Okay, cool. Because yeah, I think you could tweak some of the timing, and I'll give you some notes on that. But it's reading really well, especially the compositions, your shots, and the overall narrative reads really well.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that note. Yeah, getting a story to come across is difficult.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, very cool. All right, 2 minutes left, guys. One last question. Who's got it? Who's been holding on? Nobody.
Well, in the chat, Calvin wrapped it back to that's why storyboards and thumbnails are so good for nailing down visuals. You emphasize this, and I appreciate that you did, but pre-production is so important. It looks like you did so much pre-production on this, and it shows the way you're locked to your animatic and your compositions are all established. You did a really good job in playing this out.
Thank you. Yeah, huge, 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 huge. You'll notice the shots that don't have good thumbnails or storyboards don't look that great. And there's a reason for that. So to revisit for sure. Oh yeah, what's going on? Kiara.
I just wanted to ask, how long did you spend on your pre-production and like your storyboards? It looks like there was a lot of thought put into it.
I want to say like almost 2 months. It's like, I think it's like 300 drawings. There's also like, mine's a little bit more involved because there is some animatic stuff in there as well, where it's like, I want something to move this way. Maybe that wouldn't be done during a storyboard. An animatic is like seeing how something will move. A storyboard is like how you're telling the story through visual cues and stuff. So mine's a little more detailed. Maybe that's why it took so long. But yeah, I think that's around almost 2 months. Jason, oh, sorry, Kiara.
I was just gonna ask, what did you use to make your animatic? Was it Premiere?
Yep. Yeah, drew on my iPad and just imported those into Premiere. What's going on, Jason?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Hey, sorry, I have a boring MPD question. I'm in an MPD grad program.
Cool.
And Professor Luder, right, asked a lot of questions I was planning on asking. So I appreciate that. But so I had a question about, like, I feel like we're sort of in a stage where we're all kind of forming our thesis together, and like, I guess this seems like, from talking to professors, there seems to like be like a divide where it's like you either sort of like, I don't know, it's like top down, bottom up. Like some say like, you pick a topic like, like, I don't know, like jealousy, and you sort of funnel down till you get to like the best way to present it. And maybe it's like, I don't know, like a podcast on sibling rivalries. I don't know. Or there's those who say like, what do you want to get paid for immediately when you graduate, and then make something for that, and then just fill in all that extra like thesis stuff. So like, what was your approach? Was it like, I want to build this to get a job after and I filled in everything later? Or was it more like sort of going down that sort of like more, I don't know, holistic way? I don't know how to phrase the other one.
No, I understand what you're saying. Because also the MPD is multimedia photography and design. Photography and what I'm doing, it's very different. So a lot of people will take an emotional route with their projects and have an art piece. Not to say that this isn't art, but it's more of a structured process with pre, during, and pro and stuff. So I definitely chose this project because I wanted to get into this industry with motion graphics and motion design. So using aspects of motion design and using also aspects of composition using photography and stuff, that's all being involved here. Color combinations and color theory is all being involved. This will also have some branding assets with a website and stuff. So that's all getting like the design aspect out of the way. But when I want to do animation as my career path, I think that's what motivated this project the most. Add some motion graphics and stuff. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, yes, I won't start talking about me, but yeah, very much so. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Well, one way to consider like structuring when you're faced with a big creative problem and you don't really know where to start, giving yourself a creative brief. So you probably have some parameters of that creative brief defined by the parameters of what the thesis requires, or whatever. You have some elements that some parameters. If you can fill the rest of those in, it's like target audience, intended media, intended use. If you can just fill in those elements and create a creative brief for yourself, that sometimes helps you structure and dig down into that, structuring it in your own kind of creative brief.
So I think, Chris, you should finish this with answering. So there's about 2 months left of school for most of the people here. Some haven't started thinking about their animation final yet. Some are starting to think about their VFX final. So if you had 2 months left and didn't know what you wanted to do yet, what would you suggest people do for animation? And how do you do this complex of a project while you're doing all your other schoolwork and stuff?
Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna send a link to what I did for my animation project for your class. So people can see what not to try to do. Oh no, don't start playing. I did a very big project. I would say simple is always good. If you want to add complexities to it, focus on one thing and do it really well rather than try to do a million things and do them poorly. This takes a lot of time. If you want to do one specific thing, I say go for it and focus on that. If you want to do like, I want to have a walking character, it's like, okay, they don't have to be an 8-legged octopus with crazy hair and whatever. They can be a triangle with arms and legs, and you can still be just as funny, if not more entertaining than an octopus like walking into the street. Don't make things more difficult for yourself. Just decide what you want to do, and I mean, it's going to take a lot of time and you have to make sure you prepare for it. So that pre-production is most important in this process. Figure out exactly what you want to do and execute it rather than shuffle along and be like, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Make the decision now, make your life easier. If you have time left over at the end, you won't. You can do what you want to try to do. I would say focus small. Short stories are entertaining. Sometimes better than long stories. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
Okay, cool.
So you were going to send your link and then we're done. You did it. This was like your pre-defense.
Yeah, it's just my practice defense, guys. How fun is that?
Awesome.
Uh,
Did you post the link to draft this? Or you can just maybe shoot it to Shana and she can get it to me if you don't want to.
yeah, I can do that for sure, Brad.
Cool. Thanks.
And the YouTube link for my animation project last year is in the chat. So if you want to watch that diddly, you'll see where I got my roots. And I've only been using After Effects for only like maybe a year and a half. I started summer of 2020. I've been using Illustrator for a long while, so I do have a edge in that. But yeah, you know, I even within a year, you can see how much you can learn and how much you can do with it. So exciting stuff.
Cool. Do you want to post the Vimeo link in the Slack and then more than just Brad can give you feedback, or do you just want like minimal feedback at this point?
Either's understandable. I totally understand.
Yeah, I mean, I can decide which feedback I like and dislike, right? So I guess I might as well have everyone's.
More the better.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for screening. That was great.
Yay.